But I think one of the most impressive elements in this entire trailer and something that we really liked is like the gigantic upgrade in character rendering. And there's many different facets to discuss on this, but I think the one that I want to start with here is the hair rendering, right? Like that is just my goodness. When she steps out of prison, Lucia, and then I think my favorite is like right around 1 minute and 11 seconds, right as she's mounting Jason in the bedroom.
Oh boy.
They are ready to go. She whips him around and you see her hair fly up in the air, and just the way that all moves is extremely impressive and natural. Suggesting that, as we've seen in some other recent games, there does seem to be a strand hair system in play, which is one of my favorite introductions in recent games, I think, because it really lends characters a voluptuous look to their hairdo that was often missing. Even better than Tress FX, which was like a precursor to modern techniques. It looks freaking great. I'm just going to say it like that, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's some issues which you can tell us about, but overall, the variety of haircuts, the quality of the rendering, and the physics applied to them really, really communicate like the hairstyle in a way that I think is tremendous.
Yeah, you've got, flowing wavy hair, short, almost military crew cut hair. You've got dreadlocks, braids, curls. The amount of styles and different types of hair is very impressive. And now some of that is going to be down to the technology themselves. They had to make a hair shader that was either dynamic enough to cover all these situations, or it's a variety of shaders, but also the probably insane amount of art time spent making all those different assets for different characters. And I do really think Lucia's hair is really stand out. Like all the time she does her, like twirls and everything that are found throughout the trailer. She also has different haircuts all throughout the trailer too. She's got a ponytail in a couple shots. That is all fantastic.
Gameplay mechanic.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Blend into this environment with a ponytail. But yeah, I think the character rendering is so solid. Like it is. I mean, there's faults, and we'll talk about them in a second, but I think it's so fantastic looking. I think Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2 looked really good, but a lot of the other characters looked a little bit cartoony and weird sometimes, but I think Arthur was really good, and, this is like a good step beyond that in a lot of ways. But just like, how are they going to make this run in real time is like always a question. And I think there's some evidence of it, specifically when you look at one of the MCs, Jason. And this also happens in a couple of the press shots they brought out that you can download separately. But if you look at like this shot here at 138, he's in the foreground, the focus area of the camera shot. So you shouldn't actually expect depth of field at the layer of where his face is. It's behind him and maybe in the foreground on like very close objects that you don't really see in the shot. But if you look at his hair, you can see that it looks like lower resolution or softer than the rest of his features. Now, this is something we've seen in games where whatever they're doing to render the hair is actually done at a lower resolution than the game's internal rendering. And I imagine that would be a good way to keep its cost down, but it would make it look, depending upon like how far away the camera is and all these things, it would make it look softer and potentially more alias than the rest of the presentation. Another thing that we obviously don't know, this is all cutscenes. You can have like up to like 4 to 5 characters maybe using this in a cutscene, but what about gameplay? And like, this is an open world game, so you can see like there's been shots with like hundreds of people. I would be really curious to scare, or at least multiple dozens of people. I'd be really curious to see how this scales at a distance, and also when multiple people are congregating together, if it flips to some other type of hair modeling, or if it has some sort of cool scalability that we haven't seen yet.
We can only guess, but I would imagine it would be applied to main characters at all times, and probably that's it. But
that sounds reasonable, actually.
Maybe it's scalable enough where they can apply it to dynamically, depending on the scene load. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
that reminds me a bit of the hair in the new Dragon Age game, the Veilguard, where I think they published a technical blog and they said it was like using up 6 milliseconds of frame time. It's
huge. It's a lot.
To apply it to like the whole party at once, which is like, I don't know, to apply it to, I think up to 8 characters in the scene is what they said, something like that. So there is a considerable cost here. And I would expect Yeah, maybe they just use like hair cards past a certain point, that would be perfectly reasonable.
Exactly.
Although in the earlier trailers, we did see like a number of characters in those scenes having this strand hair system. So, but again, who knows exactly how that applies to gameplay. Yeah, the hair just looks so good. One shot in particular that I wanted to highlight here is the shot at 136 where Lucia is kind of twirling her hair there, the long flowing hairstyle. In most games with like good looking hair, you get very constrained hairstyles, or you have hair that behaves in a very unrealistic manner when you apply kind of physical forces to it. Here, they're really giving you an enormous amount of variety. Just in Lucia's hairstyle, like you're getting her hair in a ponytail, her hair completely free flowing, her hair kind of partially in a ponytail and partly free flowing. They're really not afraid to give you that kind of flexibility and that kind of nice physical response there. And also just like the hair rendering in general, like certain kinds of hair that are hard to do in games, kinky hair in particular, and afros. Like there's one shot with a guy with a big afro, and you really get that sense of volume as light is kind of spreading through a large mass of curled hair. And there's so much attention that's just gone into the hair above and beyond everything else. Because like I could talk about like how great the physicality of the characters is. I could talk about how great the like specular response to the skin is, how all that looks super good, and
how it
like,
changes depending on if they're sweaty or not.
Yeah, the
sweaty.
sweat.
I saw
too,
the sweat thing. That was cool.
It's like this really crisp, nice sweat, and also like there's one shot where you can see this guy
crisp, nice sweat
who's being held hostage, and you can see kind of the sweat is leaving this irregular pattern of like a specular highlight on his face. And I'm like, that looks so good. That's so realistic. Yeah, it just looks super impressive here. And yeah, the character rendering and especially the hair rendering is really top-notch stuff.
Man, and just like on fluid motion, I actually think they do a really good job with like simulating cloth, like wearing clothes, right? Like the actual shirts and the different clothing, especially like the baggier stuff, it actually seems to like move independently to some degree, like just some secondary animation on it in a way that makes it look like it's actually like a piece of cloth layered on top of them rather than just like part of the model, right?
Yeah, it looks good.
Which is unusual and cool to see. But I actually think the best aspect of the hair, it's the arm hair. And there's a lot of arm hair in this. I don't think I've ever seen so much detailed arm hair. We've seen arm hair like as textures. We've seen arm hair even like I was looking at Death Stranding 1 the other day, and there's scenes where they show arm hair in that as well. But the arm hair in this, it gets 5 out of 5. DF recommended. Arm hair tech.
Yeah, as someone who has intimate knowledge of arm hair, I think it's really well done. I even called it out because it was so obvious in a lot of scenes, and it's also something you'd really want to skimp on usually in a game for performance, purposes. Because let's be honest with you, like most people aren't looking at the forearms of characters in like conversational scenes and things like that. But I think a big part of the game, and I'm very curious to see if they do this as well, if they have a first-person mode like GTA 5, and that could look particularly awesome actually there. Because a lot of this detail, we are talking about a lot of details that are cutscene reserved, and usually with third-person games, you don't need as much detail for a lot of stuff. But technically, if this game does have a first-person mode like GTA 5 had added it into it with the next-gen version back in the day, that could be a great way to show off all this really impressive both character rendering as well as environmental details.